I'm Ned Jarrett. Welcome to this special edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing. We're coming to you live from the Longhorn Steakhouse at Crown Point in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have a very special program for you this evening. Two live guests, Kyle Petty, who drives the Mellow Yellow Pontiac in NASCAR Winston Cup Racing, and his car owner, Felix Sabatis. Well, the NASCAR action this weekend was at the Rock, the North Carolina Motor Speedway at Rockingham, North Carolina. Hopefully you saw all of that here on TNN. It started yesterday with the Goodwrench 200. Young Ward Burton won his first ever Busch Grand National race when he beat three Winston Cup drivers to the line. Mark Martin was second, Davey Allison third, Dale Earnhardt fourth, and Kenny Wallace rounded out the top five. But the big one was today, the Goodwrench 500. And my co-host here this evening is Randy Pemberton, who you see weekly here on Inside Winston Cup Racing. Randy, it was a great day for Bill Elliott, the Junior Johnson team. Not too good for some others.
Ned, no question about it. It was a great day for Bill Elliott and Junior Johnson. We'll be out here fielding a few questions for both Felix and Kyle in a few moments, but right now, at the North Carolina Motor Speedway today, the Goodwrench 500, all eyes were on Kyle Petty. He captured the pole position and had a chance to capture $190,000 for the Unical bonus if he could win the Goodwrench 500 from the pole. Unfortunately for Kyle, it wasn't his day. It was Bill Elliott's. Kyle Petty led the field of 41 cars to the green flag in the Goodwrench 500 and quickly pulled out to a 10-car length lead over eventual race winner Bill Elliott in the early going. But Petty's Pontiac failed to produce the perfect setup needed to nail down his first win of the new season. Instead, it was the Fords of Elliott and Davey Allison that paced the pack throughout much of the 4.5-hour affair. 1992 Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt was also hoping to hit the right setup and cash in on his first win of 1992, but instead on lap 53, he tangled with Alan Kawicki coming off of turn 2, Kawicki nearly flipping his Ford. Earnhardt suffered reoccurring brake problems the rest of the afternoon and finished a disappointing 24th. As the race hit halfway, it was still Allison and Elliott out front, followed by Mark Martin and a hard-charging Harry Gant. Soon after, Petty and his Pontiac were put a lap down, which in turn put the Unical bonus on the back burner until Richmond next Sunday. As the race wore on, Elliott and Allison wore out the competition. Less than 50 laps from the finish, only 5 cars remained on the lead lap. And it was $1 Million Bill heading for the bank. Davey Allison held on for second, followed by Harry Gant, Michael Waltrip, and Ken Schrader. For Elliott, it was his 34th career win and first ever with car owner Junior Johnson. Ned, we all know how important it is to get off to a good start, particularly this 1992 season. But unfortunately for many, like Dick Trickle, Dale Jarrett, and several others, today was really a tough day.
Well, it certainly was. But for Davey Allison, Randy, winning the Daytona 500, finishing second today, has put him in good position as far as the 1992 NASCAR Winston Cup point standings are concerned. Morgan Shepherd is second after today's race. Of course, he drives the Wood Brothers car. We told you we have two very special guests here this evening. Kyle Petty, who drives the Mellow Yellow Pontiac, and the car owner of that car, Felix Sabatis, will be fielding your questions. And you can call us at 1-800-452-8747 right here at the Longhorn in Charlotte, North Carolina. This is a very special place for a lot of racing people, and we have a lot of them on hand here this evening. We'll be back to field your questions after this.
Inside Winston Cup Racing is brought to you by coal-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Mellow Yellow. Mellow Yellow and Kyle Petty. There's nothing mellow about them.
Cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its real draft taste, the world is a very cool place.
You're about to see how Goodyear is changing all-season driving right before your eyes. Introducing AquaTread, only from Goodyear. Aquatred's advanced design channels water out of your way for dependable all-season traction, especially in the rain when you may need it most. Aquatred, the newest reason why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Racing. I can't explain it. You're kind of in a limbo zone. Time's different. Speed's different. Everything works different. That sounds totally cosmic. What do you mean? It's out there somewhere. Kyle Petty and mellow yellow. There's nothing mellow about him.
Welcome back to the Longhorn Steakhouse. A very lively crowd here this evening. And our guests are Kyle Petty, driver of the Mellow Yellow Pontiac in NASCAR Winston Cup Racing, and the car owner Felix Tavares. And Kyle, we didn't establish the fact that you did not finish. You came close, but something happened to the Mellow Yellow Pontiac.
Yeah, you know, the car just, we never got it hooked up to the racetrack all day long, but then towards the end, I guess we broke a camshaft or broke a distributor. We really weren't sure, but, you know, at that point in time, we couldn't get around to fixing it, so we just parked it.
Well, it was a long day. Randy?
Well, Kyle, one thing I would like to know, first of all, you did lose $190,000, but what more did it mean monetarily? You guys are trying to get on the winner's circle plan, too, and I guess that race hurt you.
Yeah, you know, really, the winner's circle is more important than the $190,000. Being on the winner's circle program, NASCAR has a lot of different contingency programs and stuff, so trying to get on that part of the program is real important. We've been able to do it the last couple of years and get on at Rockingham. Hadn't been able to follow it up and stay on it the next year, so we have to keep going back and trying to get on it. There's 9 people on it, and there's 2 openings. Elliott took one of the openings today because he's a new driver with Junior's team, and they weren't on it. So there's only one place left. So when you really get down to the nuts and bolts, it's probably worth, you know, with the winner's circle for this year and possibly the winner's circle for next year plus the 190, it's probably worth about $550,000 that we lost today. So it wasn't a big day for us.
Well, it certainly was. Now, Felix, you told me this morning that you took out a little bit of insurance to maybe capture some of that money.
Well, actually, what we did was we bought an insurance policy for Lloyd's of London that would match the $190,000 from Unical, and that money was going to go to the crew. But, you know, I guess Lloyd's of London, the people in England are happy tonight drinking that tea on my money.
Well, but did they bet that you wouldn't win the pole? And you did win the pole, because you had to win the race then, was that?
Right, you had to win the pole and the race, and then you got $194,000. So they got the premium. I guess, they, like I said, they're having a good time in England tonight.
Randy?
Terry, you got a question for Felix? Go ahead.
Yeah, I sure do. Felix, well, how does it make you feel? Does it really bother you that Ford has dominated the past 9 races in last year and this year?
Well, you know, as a car owner driving with the Pontiac, we're concerned because the last 7 races of last year, Ford won and they dominated. The first 2 races this year, they dominated. So I think the people at GM have their work cut out for them, and we're working very hard to develop some new cylinder heads and some other things that we can do. But it's frustrating because you go out there week after week after week, and you have Ford after Ford after Ford. I'm sick and tired of looking at FORD, you know.
But, Kyle, you did beat them in qualifying. Of course, that's a different race. Is there hope? What are the GM cars? Everybody thought when they got back to the shorter tracks after Daytona that maybe the Fords would not be as dominant as they were then.
Yeah, I have to admit that even I was surprised. You know, we beat them in qualifying, and that's part of a race. But when you look at Daytona, 7 out of the top 10 cars at Daytona in qualifying were Ford. When you go back to Rockingham, 7 out of the top 10 cars at Rockingham in qualifying were Ford. So, you know, it's one of those deals where, don't get me wrong, the guys that drive the Ford cars are great drivers. They've got great teams. It doesn't make any difference what they're going to run front. Those are front-running teams. But they're a little bit more competitive. I had to admit to Felix tonight that, because I told him, I said, wait till we get to Rockingham, wait till we get to Richmond. And when we went to Rockingham, I said, okay, I'm going to eat a little crow here and say the Fords are tougher than what I thought they were.
Now, we're talking about money. Now, you, a couple of weeks ago, before the Daytona 500, you announced a big bonus plan for Kyle, millions of dollars. What are it?
Well, he had a chance to win $6 million. Now he's down to only $5 million.
Yeah, 4. Only 4.
Oh, it's fading fast, huh?
Only 4. You had to win all 5 of the other ones to get the 6, the bonus 6.
Yeah, that's right. So he's not the $4 million.
Another 4. See, so in the last 2 weeks, basically on paper, I've lost $2.5 million.
Do you sleep at night?
I've had a good year so far.
Of course, $1 million was for winning the Daytona 500. Obviously, that's gone. And what were the bonuses?
He explains it better
Well,
than I
if he
do.
wins the Coca-Cola 600 and the Mellow Yellow 500, that's $1 million. If he wins 5 races, that's another $1 million. If he wins the Winston Million, that's another $1 million. And if he won the Daytona 500, which he didn't, of course, that was another $1 million. And if he won all 5 of them, he would get another $1 million bonus. So, but hopefully it's still time.
Randy, pretty good incentive.
No kidding about that, Ned. One thing I'd like to know, Kyle, is, first of all, the new cylinder head rule. I think you ultimately lost the engine today. What is the new cylinder head rule going to be like for the General Motors and Ford cars? Is it going to save you money in the long run? Maybe Felix can comment on that.
Well, let Felix answer that one. I don't know.
You know, when NASCAR came up with the idea of the new cylinder head, it was with the idea of saving the car owners money. But what is happening now is not saving us any money. We're chasing. And we're working very hard to get the new Chevy heads to work. And instead of saving money, we're spending as much or probably more money than we were spending in the past. And after July 4th weekend, you can't run the old Pontiac heads anymore, so you got to go to the new Chevrolet cylinder head. And we have to concentrate on making those heads better, because if not, you're going to have 29 out of 29 races run by Ford. We're working hard on them, and so is all the other General Motors teams, but it's tough.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it does come out. We need to take a short break. The number to call here is 1-800-452-8747. We'll be back with Kyle Petty and Felix Sabatis after this.
Viscosity breakdown can cause engine failure and premature engine wear. A 500-mile race is like putting 150,000 miles on a personal automobile. Pennzoil is the best motor oil that could be used in any engine, be it race car or street car. Pennzoil motor oil gives the most protection against viscosity breakdown of any major motor oil. The last thing you want to worry about is viscosity breakdown. And with Pennzoil, that's a problem that you don't have to worry about. Pennzoil, performance, protection, and quality.
Racing. I can't explain it. You're kind of in a limbo zone. Time's different. Speed's different. Everything works different. That sounds totally cosmic. What do you mean? It's out there somewhere.
Kyle Petty and Mellow Yellow. There's nothing mellow about them.
Ever seen stars in the daytime? Video Morning, where the stars shine every day. 9 to noon Eastern on TNN.
1-800-452-8747 is the number you can call to ask Kyle Petty or Felix Sabatis a question about their race team. Talking about race team, now you've become a car owner here recently in Busch Grand National.
Yes, so I guess it has cost me more than $2.5 million. The first little bit. I was at home one night and Felix called and he starts talking about this and talking about that, and then all of a sudden he says, "Oh yeah, by the way, congratulations." I said, "What for?" He said, "Well, you own a Busch team." And I said, "Really? Do I have to drive it?" That was my first question. Do I have to drive it? He said, "No, Kenny's driving it." So, Kenny did some stuff for us last year, and Kenny and that team kind of got caught in a bind, and, he talked to Felix, and Felix said, "Oh, sure, Kyle will do it." So, I'm doing it, I guess.
Okay, we're talking about Kenny Wallace, of course, who was runner-up last year on the Busch Grand National Circuit, and you brought back in a new sponsor started last week.
Royal and the Daredevil Company, they have planned to run Kenny in their Winston Cup team, the Winston Cup car this year, and whatever happened, but anyway, they came back with us, and Kenny's going to drive the Daredevil Chevrolet Pontiac the balance of the year. And hopefully maybe he can come in first this time instead of second in the championship.
Well, I would imagine he will be one of those to beat for that championship, Randy.
Well, Ned, we've moseyed over to the other side of the Longhorn now. We've caught up with Mike. Mike, you got a question for Kyle?
Yes. Kyle, you're financially comfortable right now. Would you encourage your family, your children, to follow in the great Petty family tradition of racing?
Okay, that's a good question. I don't know. It's hard to say. You know, and Ned knows this. You know, my grandfather raced, and my father raced, and then I came along and raced after him. And, you know, it's different than when you see your son race. You know, my little boy's just started running some go-karts and stuff, and it takes my breath watching him run 30 miles an hour in a go-kart every now and then. So I'm not sure about it. But, you know, basically it's just whatever they want to do. You know, if they get old enough and that's the direction they want to do, then that's fine with me.
Let's go to the telephone line. Did you hear that? The guy that finishes 31st sometimes might win more money than the guy who finishes 41st.
Yeah, you know, but that's like we were talking before. NASCAR has different contingency programs. To get on their programs, I think there's like 1A and 1B or 1C. I mean, there's different slots and stuff. To get on their programs, you got to run all the races, and they reward the people that run all the races. So, like a new team, like Dale Jarrett's team this year, which has just started out, then they're not on any program. So when you look at them, they might run 5th in a race and make $5,000, and the guy that runs 10th might win $10,000 just because he's on the winner's circle and on all the other plans too. So it rewards the people who have been here a long time. Like I say, there's 9 spots, really 11 spots open on the winner's circle, but there are different other programs that pay. So that's why it's all, I guess that's why there's such a big discrepancy in the pay.
Kyle, you and I were talking a little bit in Daytona about the amount of money that race drivers make compared to athletes in other sports. Now, you got your car owner sitting here, and we've talked about those $1 million bonuses, multi-million-dollar bonuses that he has. Now, maybe you're doing okay. Generally speaking, are race drivers paid fairly?
No, you know, I don't think so. Compared to what we were watching, I guess I was hurt. I was hurt all summer, so I sat home and watched TV. And I'm watching them run the Talladega race on TV, and they're racing for $750,000, and a guy thinks a 20-foot putt, and he wins $220,000 for his 20-foot putt or whatever. But, you know, in comparison to what baseball players and football players and everybody else is making, no, I don't think race drivers make that type of money yet. I don't think it's the problem of the owners or per se or as NASCAR in general. It's just that we're a fairly young sport, and it's growing, and it'll come to that just as I make a whole lot more now than what my father made when he was doing it. Then in another 5 or 10 years, the figures will be up there, hopefully.
Yeah, in 1990, when you won the Goodrich 500 at Rockingham, you won about $270,000 or $80,000, somewhere in that neighborhood with the Unocal bonus. That was almost as much as I won in my entire career. Let's go across the room to Randy.
Kyle, talking about marketing strategies and some of the things that you and Felix have been doing, I think a lot of the fans caught you on the Home Shopping Network or the Home Shopping Channel. Explain to us what you were doing on there about a month ago.
I was selling, man. I was trying to make money. That's what I was doing.
Felix taught you well, huh?
That was it. We went down there, Benny Parsons and myself. We sold Trax cards, a set of Legends cards, autographed pistons, plaques. We sold all kinds of stuff. And we did really, really well. You know, it's just a new market that's opened up to Winston Cup racing because of TNN, because of ESPN, because of the exposure they get. And there's a lot of people in the Midwest and out in California that only see you on TV, and so they'd call in and ask questions. We had a really good time. We were on 2 nights for about 2.5 hours each night, and it was a lot of fun doing it.
Well, Felix, your business is selling.
Yeah, and the Home Shoppers Network is one of my biggest customers, so that's what I got Kyle involved with him, and hopefully we're going to do maybe 3 or 4 more shows this year with him. And with Kyle as a salesman, so see how he does. He did well that time.
Okay, we need to take a short break, and we'll be back for more with Kyle Petty and Felix Sabates. You stay with us.
of these championship-winning drivers have one thing in common: Goodyear Racing Eagles. The race-winning technology that's found in the Goodyear Racing Eagles can also be found in the world's best-selling line of high-performance street tires, Goodyear Eagle Street Radials. The champions know, and it's why we say the best tires in the world have Goodyear written all over them.
Cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. For those who've discovered its real draft taste, the world is a very cool place.
From the heart of the country comes our song. Born in America and growing strong. It's about real people, you and me. It's about life and love and family. Listen to the heart of TNN. Listen to the heart of TNN. TNN, the heart of country.
Inside Winston Cup Racing has been brought to you by coal-filtered Miller Genuine Draft and Miller Genuine Draft Light, taking the country by storm. And by Haviland Formula-Free Motor Oil. Add more life to your car. And by Mellow Yellow. Mellow Yellow and Kyle Petty. There's nothing mellow about them. Inside Winston Cup Racing Live was provided facilities by Longhorn Steaks Restaurant and Saloon, voted best steaks and burgers in Charlotte, with 4 locations in the Charlotte area.
We're live at the Longhorn Steakhouse at Crown Point in Charlotte, North Carolina. The phone number is 1-800-452-8747. Our guest, Kyle Petty, driver of the Mellow Yellow Pontiac in NASCAR Winston Cup Racing, and Felix Sabatis, the car owner. And let's go now to the phone. Well, it sounded like somebody hung up. They hung up on it. Kyle, how tough was it this afternoon? 500 miles on a track like Rockingham, just the second race of the season.
It's tough. You know, this schedule's always been fairly tough. You go to Daytona and you get into the swing of it. Then you go to Richmond and then Rockingham. And you were pretty well used to racing by the time you got to Rockingham. But to come straight from Daytona and to land on to have to run 490-some laps there right off the bat is really tough, because we hadn't been racing all winter. You know, we've just been testing, just been messing around, and you know, and when the car gets loose, I was showing you, I got bruises on the backside of my arms from having to turn left and right all day today. But it's tough on you physically. It's, you know, you're mentally prepared because you want to go do it, but it's tough on you physically.
Randy?
Come on, Kyle. Harry Gant's over 50. I think you'll be all right. You can handle it. We got a question from Renee here, Kyle.
I was just wondering if you had any plans to be with Fabco after this year?
Maybe you ought to ask Felix that. Like I say, I've already lost $2.5 million so far. Yeah, we've got another year. I guess our deal with Coca-Cola. We're in the second year of our deal with Coca-Cola and with Mellow Yellow. And, you know, hopefully next year is our third year. And hopefully, you know, after that, they'll re-up and they'll go again. And my father's been with STP, I guess, for 20 or 21 years. So I could be with Coke and with Felix for that long. I'd be pleased.
Now, you mentioned your father. Of course, he's on his fan appreciation farewell tour this year, his last year as a driver. And a lot of people are speculating, you know, that Kyle will become the driver of that car next year, but you've answered it. You won't be in that car.
No, you know, he knows where I'm at. My father knows where I'm at as far as what I do with Felix and what my plans are. And, you know, he has never, ever even brought up the subject and never broached the subject of me coming to drive for him. He's looking for a younger driver right now. He plans on making some kind of decision sometime around June or July of this year and to figure out who they're going to put in the car. But, you know, he knows if I ever come back to Petty Enterprise, it's a long way down the road.
Randy?
We got a question out here. Here we go. Kyle.
Kyle, now that Felix has entered into the Busch Grand National field, is there a possibility you may be doing some Busch Grand National racing?
I hope not. No. No, probably not. Our deal with Kenny and with Dirt Devil was for Kenny to drive the car. And, you know, it's a deal for him. And, you know, if the opportunity comes up for me to run 2 or 3 races, that's fine. I've driven them in the past, and I guess the most I've ever run has been about 10 or 12 races a season in that. But, you know, this year we came out with our team, with Sabco, and we felt like we wanted to run for the championship, and we wanted to make a big assault on the championship. And we want to concentrate on those 29 races and not be throwing bush races in with it.
Now, you had trouble today. Of course, that sets you back a little bit as far as the points are concerned, but do you still feel you got a good shot at winning?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do. You know, we made, you know, everyone knows that Gary Nelson worked with us last year and he left, and we've got Robin Pemberton. We felt like with Robin Pemberton that he'll bring to the team new blood in the first place, and that gets everybody pretty pumped up. But he brings a consistency to the team from Mark's team, and that's what Mark Martin's team had, was consistency over the last 2 or 3 years. And that's what we're trying to find. And, you know, we've made a lot of changes, we've done a lot of stuff, but, and this race kind of sets us back a little bit, you know, but you're going to have 2 or 3 races like this in a season. No matter who wins the championship, they're going to have some 29th and 30th place finishes thrown in there, too. So, you know, we just go back, regroup. I think we were 6th in the points coming out of Daytona. We dropped to 10th this time. So, you know, but we're still within shots. You're still within 120 points here, the second race of the season. There's a lot of guys, you know, already 200 and 300 points out. So, you know, we don't have that much to make up right now.
Randy?
Kyle, everybody knows you missed about 12 races last year after that wreck at Talladega. I guess, how is your leg physically as of right now? Are you 100%, and do you still have the metal rod in the leg?
Yeah, I've still got my rod in my leg. It'll stay in until next Christmas. I get it out. Well, I plan on going in right after the race at Atlanta and getting it out that week so I can go start back on my rehab and come in and test in December and test in January. You know, my leg, as far as I'm concerned, is 100% for what I have to do in a race car. It's not 100% as far as going out and playing basketball or running and doing things like that I want to do. I still can't run on it or a lot of things like that. But, you know, as far as getting in a race car and driving, you know, last year we ran this race in the fall, and when the race was over with, they had to carry me out of the car. I couldn't walk for about 30 minutes. And, you know, when the race was over this time, you know, you just hop out of the car and you're fine. So as far as I'm concerned, for racing, it is 100%.
Felix, you're a businessman. How different is the business of auto racing? It's become pretty big business. How different is it from regular business?
Well, you know, you have a lot of highs and a lot of lows with racing. And if you go into racing with the idea you're going to make money, you're in the wrong sport, because it's very difficult to make a profit with this business. To give you a perfect example, today we went to 17 sets of tires at $1,000 a set. That's $17,000 on our purse of $12,000. So you don't go with the idea of making money. You have to enjoy the sport, and you try to make money, and hopefully someday we're going to return a profit on it. But it's completely different than what I'm used to. This is, you thrill a victory in the agony of defeat. You live there every day.
Well, guys, our time is up, and we certainly appreciate you coming and being with us here on our special edition of Inside Winston Cup Racing Live. And remember, we'll be on with another live show on Sunday, March the 22nd. And our thanks to the folks here at the Longhorn Steakhouse and all the fans who came out here this evening to join us. Join us here next week on Inside Winston Cup Racing at a regular time.